Well, well. Oh, man. Oh, we. Okay. I didn't have a whole lot to talk about today that I could think of. I've been, taking it easy. This is the time of year for people like me that work in retail that it's incredibly stressful. Because, like, when you go to your store, your grocery store, you're like, why do they have, like, Halloween stuff up in July? Why do they have Christmas stuff up? It's not even fucking Thanksgiving. It's because they send us this shit so early and we have no room, so we have to throw it on the floor and just get the fuck out. It's stupid. And it gets earlier and earlier, and it's all this greed and money stuff, and it's fucking annoying. So, as that's happening, I'm tired. I'm fucking exhausted. All day it's just moving shit around, lifting, moving, lifting, moving, lifting, moving, lifting, moving, lifting, moving. And then my fucking feet, my back, I'm so sore. And I gotta come in here and try to entertain. Okay, we'll try. So, I did have a thought that came up recently. Out where I live, there's some woods. I think I've talked about this in the past, but I honestly don't remember. And I've walked out there a handful of times, more than a handful of times. I like to go out there by myself. My favorite time to walk is during fall and winter. I don't like walking in the, in the summertime or like late spring, because there's the ticks and shit. I've not seen any, but goddamn human beings fucking around with shit, and now Lyme disease exists. So anyway, so I like to go walking out in the woods, and sometimes I sense some kind of, I'm gonna say like anger, I guess is the best word I can think of. Something that's a little bit miffed, if you will. Now, I did not know what this was, and I didn't I don't know, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just kind of walked around the woods. Probably should make my shirt's buttoned up. I walked around the woods, and I don't know, didn't think much of it. But as time went on, I kind of began to sense it more and more. All right, I'm going to give you this little story, and then we're going to go into the past, and I'm going to kind of tell you the entire truth of how I see all this stuff. Hence the name of the video. And I remember walking in the woods about a year ago, and I felt like I was being followed. I can't explain it. It was a really strong sense of something was following me, and not something playful or something like childlike, you know what I'm saying? Like something kind of sinister feeling. So I was just like, oh man. So I went off the trail, and I kind of like hid a little bit, and nothing was there. Because my first thought as a human being is, oh, some person, I don't know, some stupid ass or something. I'm not really sure, how people are. Maybe they're going out there doing drugs. I don't fucking know. Right? I don't always go to the crazy mystical side of life. My first thoughts are pretty normal. Like, oh, some dude, probably. I'm not sure. But there was no one. And I don't know what happened and why I did this. And I can't explain anymore, But I remember like closing my eyes and sensing a presence coming towards me, but I couldn't see it. This is weird sounding, I know, but I don't know why this all happened and why I knew what to do. This is why it's fucking weird. And as it came towards me, it was going to lunge out at me. But somehow, weirdly, mystically, in my mind, it went like, and pushed it up, and it went away. It was so weird. And ever since then, the kind of ire and anger dissipated. Subsequently, after that, I would kind of go and walk in the woods here and there. And I remember, again, feeling a presence. And so I said, what is your name? Right? I would go in there, I would like leave an offering, a really nice gem that I found, or some money. And I heard in my head, cuter. Q-U-T-I-R-R, cuter. Cuter or cuter. And I just thought that's the name of the woods. I don't know. I'm not really sure the deity that watches over. I don't know how this stuff works. Anyway, time went on. All of a sudden, me and my wife were outside on the on a full moon, harvest moon, I think it was, and we were looking up at the sky, and we heard some rustling in the forest, and we didn't think much of it. I didn't, at least. She's like, "That's getting closer," and it was. It was like rustling, like, just coming closer and closer. She just was like, "Fuck this! I'm out of here. It's the Sasquatch." And she went inside, and I was like, "Sasquatch? Oh shit!" And then a memory. So I went inside, right? And here's the memory. These woods that I live at, I forgot some years ago, my sister and her friend were, so okay, this is how weird it is. Where I live, there's my home, there's a forest, and there's a grocery store in the middle, like kind of in the middle of a field, really. And there's a path that connects it. So this is the, right here, it's flat, I know, but this is the grocery store. And then this is the forest. I live off camera here. There's a big lake back here. There's a couple small ones, and as you can just see, it's just farmland as far as the eye can see. Live in the middle of nowhere, don't I? But yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, it's just forest, grocery store, and there's a big. It's not a huge forest, you can see, but it's big enough, I guess. So when she worked in that grocery store and she went in the back to take out garbage, they heard the same rustling in the woods. Her and this other guy. And he swears he saw and heard this too. So when the rustling happened, it was shh, and all of a sudden a cat jumped out. And they're like, oh, okay, that was all it was. And she says, hand to God, all of a sudden some massive thing stepped out that was chasing the cat, looked at them and roared as loud as a lion. And they fell back and ran in the store and just tried not to talk about it again, but like he later admitted, like, yeah, I saw whatever the fuck that was. Now that's the forest that I live near too. And then that's what it clicked when my wife said the Sasquatch. I was like, oh shit. What if he's like a shepherd of this or something? I don't really know. I'm not sure. Because there's part of me that wants to be like, well, come on, like, do you really think this is happening? But then there's another part of me that's like, well, if you remember your childhood, this isn't really out of the realm of normality in a sense. And so I went out there maybe a few weeks back. I bought an entire roasted chicken and I placed it in a certain spot, and I said, this is for you and your health, and may you be safe and enjoy this. And that's it. Ever since then, I don't feel so much ire. Now, I've deduced in my mind, if this is all real, that this being who watches over these woods, in a sense, is untrusting of mankind because of how they fucking are. So now when I walk in there, I'm always trying to pick up the garbage that is left behind and find things, and I try to clean up and stuff like that to be on good terms. Now, that sounds kind of crazy to certain people in the world. Okay, that's fine, whatever. You know what sounds crazy to me? Math. But that doesn't mean it's not real. So it's just kind of different realms of different minds that exist. Now, I said, okay, as I was young, I've experienced a lot of these things too. Weirdly, and I mentioned this on one of my videos, I don't remember which one. I lived near another patch of woods once when I was young. And from my birth to 13 years old, I lived near these woods. And there was something crazy about them that I really cannot explain. Me and my sister both can attest to the things that happened in our childhood that really stained us and kind of caused the issues that we've had since then. Now, one of the biggest ones was on more than one occasion. So we lived in this trailer, and the trailer was built in the 70s. So it had those old metal, or those would have been aluminum, little flap windows. It was weird. It was like 2 windows and they'd open like that and then they'd close like that. It was just kind of a strange design, but that's what they thought was cool. And there was like a little thing that you'd wire it open. Well, they were broken and it would not lock. It would just kind of flap. So my parents tried to like caulk it shut or whatever it was, seal it. But the seal was loosening. So sometimes we couldn't lock our window. Just fucking put it out. Now, I lost my room when I was young because something happened to our roof, like a leak or something. And for whatever reason, I never had a room again. I had to share it with my sister in the back room. So there was, on more than one occasion, I swear to God, something was trying to get into that window. We saw it. Where I remember seeing fucking a hand, you know, trying to open it, and we were so terrified. So fucking terrified. And couldn't explain what it was. You know, as a child, you can't rationalize. Like, is someone trying to come in here and rape us? Or is this a ghost? I don't know. Anyway, so when that happened, then I think it was the second time it happened. I can't remember. My sister told me about this. She found a dead bird under our bed the second time it happened. I think our mom tried to say like, oh, a cat probably got inside the vent or something and brought it all the way up and in. It's like, okay, maybe. I don't know. Can't really prove that or not. But it is kind of a strange coincidence that, you know, you have something trying to get in our room and then a day later there's a dead bird underneath the bed. Kind of fucking strange. We didn't have a cat at that time, as I remember it, but I don't know. How would it have gotten the bird? I don't know. So that was just one thing where it kind of got me thinking like, there's something going on in this world that I can't really explain. But I remember growing up in that room, I felt like there was some dark, evil presence lingering in there a lot. I remember it, I remember, like, because we had to have a bunk bed, and I remember being on the top bunk, and it was dark. And we were going to bed, and the bottom of the bunk was, like, shaking and moving. And I was like, what are you doing down there? Stop fucking shaking the bed. I thought it was my sister. And I kept doing it, and all of a sudden I was like, can you stop doing that? And I swear to God, my sister walks in and she's like, doing what? Oh my God. And I was like, you weren't just doing that? And it freaked us out, man. I could keep going and going, and I have a couple more I'll tell. These two are not from me, but from my sister. So one time when my mom and dad went grocery shopping. My sister, and probably my little brother too. My sister stayed at home with her friend. And we had a dog too. And so they went outside to sit on the porch. And she said, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because it was a trailer, and trailers have very thin, crappy walls, they could hear running up and down the hallway. It's like running fast. And like the dog, our dog, just started barking like crazy. And she said she heard it run all the way up to the living room. And she poked her head into the front door and saw the dog barking in the direction, just barking and barking, like foaming at the mouth, just like doing that kind of scared, you know, dogs when they're terrified of something, they're doing that kind of yowly barking thing. It was doing that into that room, and they just fucking let her out and just stayed outside until we got home. We always used to joke because around that time, Pet Sematary was kind of popular. We'd always say like maybe there was an Indian burial ground out here or something, because those grounds felt cursed. It felt fucking weird. There was like just a weird feeling that you could not shake. A lot of kids felt it, but most of them didn't want to admit it. And like one strange instance was my sister and her other friend late at night were walking around the trailer park, and then they rounded, the street, and then at the end of the street it just stopped, and then the forest just kind of began. Well, they said running out of the forest was this white thing, and they're like, what the fuck is that? And then as it got closer and closer, it was running on, bipedally, on 2 legs, running. But she said, I swear to God, it had kind of a glow to it in a sense, and it looked like it was a wolf. Can't confirm it, obviously, but she saw it, her friends saw it, and it was running out towards them, and they just booked it and hid the rest of the night. We've had a lot of encounters like that too, where one time when I was over 13, I couldn't tell you, 13 to 16 years old, and me and my sister and a friend went back to the trailer park, and we're camping in a yard. We had a little tent and everything. It was late at night. It was past 11 or something. And then we were going to go out. I don't know why. We were going to get out of the tent and go kind of walking around the trailer park at night. And I got out, and then they were fucking around with the tent, trying to, you need to make sure you close it because the fucking mosquitoes get in. They're, in the background doing that. And I walked out, and I kind of stepped aside, and here was their trailer right here. Here's their little yard, and here's another trailer, right? Everyone had a yard about as fucking 16 feet wide at most. And I was standing, and I looked over at the end of the other person's trailer, and I saw a girl's face poked around like this. Here's the wall, poked around, looking at me with a fucking huge grin, but evil-looking eyes, like a malevolent grinning. Her face was fucking pale white, almost glowing, long black dark hair. Her mouth is a little bit bigger than it should have been, and she was just looking at me grinning. And I just thought, it's so funny, your first thoughts are fractions of seconds, but I just remember thinking oh, that girl thinks it's funny what they're doing over there, that young girl, which kind of weird looking kid or whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute, something's not right. And so I told them, and we ran, and the rest of that night we were walking around the trailer park frightened, because every time we'd go somewhere something terrifying would happen. It was so weird. This place was so fucking weird, man. And I told my sister, I was like, this is kind of what the Irish call fairies. All these things, these encounters. These strange beings, and they always come from these woods, man. So growing up, I had a really fucked up sense of this kind of stuff. I can't remember falling asleep and not being terrified. Do you know what I'm saying? As a child, growing up, every night was fucking terrifying. What's going to happen now? Is something going to finally get in? What are those noises coming from our closet? What's that fucking presence I feel under the bed? Kind of shit, right? And you could say childlike imagination, sure, whatever. But when you physically see these things manifest, when you don't want them to manifest, I know there's arguments for that too, about how they, your childhood traumas can manifest outwardly and internally. Okay, whatever. There's more to that than you motherfucking understand. Because when you see that shit, and when you experience this frightful terror of these things that you cannot control, and when you try to stand tall against them, and my sister was tormented far more than I was. Sometimes I would go run and hide in my parents' room at night, and she'd be stuck in there. I'd leave her behind. I'm I'm sorry. Every man for himself. And I'd run. And there would be times where she was trying to get out of that room, but something was holding her down so hard that she couldn't even crawl out of the fucking bedroom because there was this weight holding her down. She says she fought so hard to get free from it, but she couldn't. And it felt like a human being pushing down on you, and you're just okay, try to crawl away, and she couldn't do it. There was many encounters where she was frozen in terror in bed. And like I said, she got it worse than I did. I don't know, for me, it was almost like by proxy, some of these scary things. because it's happened with other women in my life where they have these really crazy, let's call it supernatural encounters, and I'll experience it with them, sure, but when I'm alone, I can kind of handle it differently. There's been a few times where I was absolutely terrified and I froze up. That actually happened like 3 to 5 years ago, where there was a dark presence so evil that I was so terrified that I stood in the kitchen and just waited for it to be over. I was shocked. Like, there's times where it does get me, but for the most part, I kind of try to find a way to just embrace. It sounds weird, but just like, I'm just gonna let this weird shit go, and I'll be with it. You know what I mean? And I'll try to gather what I can while this crazy shit's happening. Now, a modern, in a sense, mind, especially a religious mind, let's say in that sense, would say these are demonic beings. I don't know, man. I think there's more to it than that. I don't think there's such thing as this evil, cut and dry demons and angels. Like, that bullshit, man. It's far too vast to say that shit. You could even go paranormally and say manifestations of emotions or of dark events that might have happened playing out again, you know, the thinning of the veil and all that. You could. I'm sure both of those things have a tinge of truth to them. Me and my sister kind of, I think it's Irish in us, honestly, have this natural superstition now because of it, where I still to this day will be like, you need to appease the fairies because they're clearly in your land. You have to make sure that you do that. Don't fuck with them. You know, like, it's still a natural process in my mind to believe this stuff. I know that there's probably psychological explanations to this. Like I was saying, I've heard before, like, the inner mind of a child is always trying to make sense of the world around them. And so sometimes when they're going through some fucked up thing, they're trying to create order in their mind. They're trying to make sense of this world. So sometimes they'll embody bad things happening to them as external dark entities or beings, or like a scary monster under the bed or shit like that. And I'm sure there's some truth to that. But as we've been discussing on this channel, I think there are more depths to our mind than we can understand. I think we can touch and tap into realms of thought that can hide or hold thought forms that can take on shapes and beings, you know. Once I finish my books, you'll see what I'm talking about, because that's kind of what I'm writing about. So I think there's aspects of all these things amalgamating into one, right? The fact is, though, I did not lose all that in growing. You know, as I'm a full-grown adult who tries not to believe in everything he hears. Still to this day, I mean, my therapist basically helped me see this. I have nightmares almost like every night. For a long time, I never saw them as nightmares. I was like, no, they're just like, at worst, a fucked up story. You remember the one I told you about, the guy in the basement and all that, or the fight in the shapeshifter, or my wife dying, or, you know, those are the recent ones. But they're always like that, and I'm like, they're just fucked up dreams. They're not nightmares. But like, she's like, no, they're fucking nightmares. Those are nightmares. Those are terrible. If you wake up scared, that's a nightmare. And I was like, well, okay, you know, to me, a nightmare is something happening to me, but whatever. So like, I still kind of deal with this all the time, you know, night terrors and shit, and I don't sleep very well. I wake up a lot, at least 5 to 6 times a night. I'm waking up, you know what I mean, and looking around, and I have weird, like, what would you call this? I have weird things now where this has happened more than once, and I don't know why my mind goes here, but when I'm sleeping, and any girlfriend that I've ever had, now my wife, if they know to be careful waking me up. Always. Because for whatever reason, when I'm woken up by a woman, my hand to God, my first immediate thought is it's a witch. Every fucking time, like, I wake up and like their face looks more different. You know, it looks more evil or scarier looking, you know, when your eyes are just opening. And I'm always thinking they're a witch. And sometimes it's a girlfriend bringing me a water because I was having a rough nightmare or whatever. And I reluctantly take the water. I'm like, this is poison. She's trying to poison me, you know? I've always thought this. It's like, I don't know why. My immediate thought is, as soon as I wake up, it's got to be a witch. There's no other explanation for this. And then my logic takes over. I'm like, that's your wife, or that's your girlfriend, or whoever at the time. This girl. It's just something, I know that means it's deep down. There's a primal fear of this Celtic weird fucking, I guess we could say it like that, fairies and witches. That's kind of Celtic, Celtic stuff. So we could kind of say it's in that realm, but I'm not sure why that is, And that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, your heritage follows you even when you don't realize it. Like, yeah, I'm an American, and you hear me, and you're like, oh, he's probably fucking, what do they call us? Anglo-Americans or some shit. I'm like, okay, maybe some aspect of me is that, but I also have Welsh and Irish DNA, much more than I have my English DNA. Explain that one. So I would say that kind of shows that stuff kind of lingers inside of you. And my first immediate thought, like every time I read about accounts of Irish people, they're being talked shit about so bad. They're like, oh, there's these weird superstitious people. Talk about fairy mounds. We couldn't even touch that hill to destroy it because they said it was a fairy mound. And this is up to the 60s. Nowadays, they're not so much like that because they're becoming anglicized. They're turning into like English people, sadly. I honestly believe that Irish people have a weird connection to the other world more than any group of people. And I can attest to that just because of the weird shit that I've fucking experienced in my life. And it's like, I really don't know how to explain all this. Like, the stuff we're talking about now, I don't tell people about this because they're going to be like, I'm not going to believe any of it, or they're going to think I'm this or that or whatever. So I can't really talk about this stuff, but the strange encounters that I have in my dreams now of these crazy beings that are asking things of me, the strange amalgamation of my depths to explore in the mythology, what the Hirius Codex is going to uncover as I continue to tell the story, and this dark, sinister shit from my childhood is really tainted the way I feel in this world. I feel that mankind does not respect, nor will they grasp as a whole, when we think of scientific and mathematical people and logic-based people, or even super religious people, they do not respect the real reality of this world, and so in some sense, they're ignoring almost half of what this place really is. And that's the half you can't see. That's the half that the doorway is called the imagination. Because a lot of people think the imagination is just that. It is imaginary. But they don't really realize that they do this too. That there's an amalgamation, this place, this consciousness, this idea that you can manifest things and they turn into reality. It's like a magic, dude. It's fucking crazy. Obviously, kids are a lot more attuned to that because they're really raw. Their potentiality in the sense of what they can draw is much higher than an adult, because as an adult, you're kind of forced to believe certain things. Like there's only God and angels and demons, so don't fuck with demons. There's Jesus, there's only mathematics and science, and there's only society and rules and culture and football and all this dumb shit. Like they just kind of think that's it. There's no more to this. It's that rest of that shit you're making up. That's your fucking hang up. And so it's kind of hard to talk about this stuff. But I know for a fact that there are many, many people that experience these weird things that cannot be explained. I myself have found a way to live with it, to move with it. I don't even question it anymore. I bet if I told my daily life to people, they probably wouldn't necessarily, believe it, but think that it's like, how do you fucking deal with these things? And I just say, you just accept it. It's a part of the reality that I can see. I can't change it. I can only learn from it. So when you see aspects of people being under control, let's say, by, we could go with thought forms, when you start to see and unravel the truth and reality of the human mind, and you start to see what is really going on in this world, it can be very demoralizing. And most people will fall into religion because that's where safety feels. I don't blame them for that, but that's not the right way to go. You have to leave eventually. And I don't go out searching for things. I don't get into the occult. I don't do witchcraft or I don't know, pagan worship. I don't fuck with it. I just embrace that it exists around me, and I try to have my own little light in this dark world. That's all I can do. For me, it's I don't want to fuck around with it, you know. Let's go with demons if you want to believe that. There are some people who say, oh, you can manipulate a demon and have them do your bidding as long as you're smart about it, right? Weird esoteric shit. I say, fuck all that. I'm not about to do any of that stuff. I want to live my life. I don't want power. I don't want manipulation. I don't want that weird fucking level. I don't even want to pray to, like, what a Christian would call, like, angels and saints and shit. Like, no, I don't fuck with those things. I live my life here. Sometimes things come to me. I reluctantly, most of the time, but kind of take on what they want. And if they're asking something of me that isn't totally crazy, you know, we have an understanding, and I have a respect for fucking whatever the hell that shit is. Whether you believe it's angels and demons, whether you believe it's daemons and fairies, whether you believe it's other dimensional beings poking in and manipulating us, so here's an interesting one. I remember I told you I read this book called Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. Well, he was able to project himself onto the universe, and eventually he found an alien race, and he was omnipotently watching them. And he said some of them treated me like a demon, some of them treated me like a divine messenger, and it was annoying. But the philosophers treated me like I was, like a human being, and they talked and treated me like one. And it could be that shit too, man. It could be astral projecting people, as far as I fucking know. I don't know what this stuff is. But I do know it contains multitudes like human beings. Not every entity is evil. Not everyone is good. Sometimes they're a bit of both. Sometimes they're tricksters. And so that's why, like, I don't have an answer for what this shit is, you know, like angels, demons, daemons, fairies, otherworldly beings, aliens, you know, I've heard that one. I don't have a claim to what this shit is, but I do know it exists, whatever it is. And I guess the supernatural is the best definition you could have for it, because it is. It's supernatural. It's kind of, I don't know what the fuck this is. It comes from some other part of my mind or realm or world or dimension or whatever the word is you want. But it's all the same, man. This stuff is very, very strange. I don't necessarily know how to feel about it a lot of the times, but again, I am working on my mythology, and I'm pretty sure I said this before. There is a woman, my guide, that is really wanting me to do this mythology. Really want me to do this. You could go Jungian and say that's my inner divine female. You know, I forget the Jungian terms. But it could be some feminine aspect of myself wanting to get this out in a cathartic sense. Catabasis or whatever. You could say it's a personal daemon, like Alexander the Great talked about. Napoleon said that he had one. I can't remember the other famous people. I have this personal guide from the other world that's guiding me. You could say it's an angel over my shoulder. Saint Michael, you know, like telling me how to do this. Like a prophet would believe. I don't know, man. Anything else? I'm sure there's people going like it's an alien it's an alien rogue AI that's, I don't know. You know how people are. It could be any of those things, but I know there's a feminine being that wants me to write this mythology. And I'll get to certain points and I'll be like, I don't know what to do here. And I pause because I know she will give me what I need. Whether it's in a fucking dream or not. Most of the time I'm visited in my dreams. That is why, I don't remember if I talked about it on here, but my latest dream, I wrote the Harius Codex to a certain point. And as I told you, the Harius Codex is based around a series of dreams that I had that I felt were so prophetic that I'm using that as the basis of the God being that exists in my mythology. This is the dream of the God that creates the universe. Okay? Well, I got to a certain point and I was like, what do I do? You know? I had a dream not that long ago. I think I talked about this, but I'll just mention it again. where I had another series of dreams. And as it came out, do you know how you're in that state when you just wake up from sleeping but you're not awake? It's that kind of twilight spot where you're not sleeping but you're not awake. In that moment, I've always gotten great ideas for songs, great ideas for stories, drawings. You know, that's kind of the muse state, I think of it as. Like, that's the state where that's a crucial moment where if you pay attention there and you wake yourself up, you can have a divine intervention. So in that state, I remember seeing as if I was a camera sitting here and the world just kept going back. Like on your phone, you're scrolling. And it was a world just scrolling and scrolling. And every time it was scrolled, it'd get darker and darker, more black and white. And I can't explain to you what it is, but just imagine staring forward and the world's passing you by and someone's doing this to it. And as it was doing that, I was watching a world kind of go in reverse. It said, go deeper and deeper, farther and farther, deeper, deeper, beyond thought, beyond your own mind. Go beyond the people you care about. Go beyond the events that made you who you are. Go beyond your own personal thoughts. Go beyond your traumas. Go beyond your belief systems. Go beyond all the things that made you who you are. And in fact, it said, go beyond your past lives. Go beyond all of that until you get to the end. And the scrolling stopped and it was complete darkness. I'm still trying to puzzle this part out, but it said, once you do that, you will have gotten to the little I. Now, I don't know if they mean I as an eyeball or the letter I as an identifier, like I am. I'm thinking it's a bit of both in a sense. And it said, you get to the little I. There is where the truth lies. Go to the place of the little I, for that is where the truth will lie. I could not sleep. I woke up and I just was like, oh my God. And I wrote it down. I got on my typewriter here and I wrote down as much as I could, middle of the fucking night. And here I sit with that still in my mind going like, what the fuck is the little I? Is that like a Jungian thing? Is that like again, I don't remember his terms, but is that the true me, the small I, the ego, blah, blah, blah? Is it I in an esoteric sense? Is it religious? And from what I'm gathering in my life, that I is me basically doing what I'm doing, stripping away everything. I believe like Descartes, if that's the philosopher I'm remembering correctly, where you try to take everything away and see what's left over. What is the truth? You take it all away, and the truth is, I am that I am, or whatever it was is fucking saying. I think, therefore I am, I think was his epiphany. I think, therefore I am. So, in a sense of truth, I have to strip away everything that created me. From memories, people, places, events, belief systems, traumas, triumphs. Fucking you name the human experience, man. Name it all. I have to go beyond all that. That being, we could say, that told me that, this woman, was no different than all those other things that happened in my childhood. It's just this one happened to be kind of, I'm going to say nice, but it came across more like a parent telling their kid, like, come on, you can do this. You need to figure this out. It didn't come across as this sweet thing or evil. It was just kind of like, God, come on, dude, go out and get it. Find the little I or whatever. So, like, for me, I don't shy away from it. Can you imagine if I just, no, I'm not doing this, and I went to, like, become a Christian? Because that's what my world is around me. That's the only thing I can do. I can't be a Jew. There's no Muslims out here. It's only fucking Protestants. So, like, can you imagine if I just like, no, all that, fuck it, that's devil. I'm going to go to the God and Jesus, and I would have stifled myself. I would have stifled who I was. Because all this, we'll say, being is asking of me is to discover who I really am. Is that so fucking evil? This whole time, this mythology that has turned from a fun experience that I was doing with my friends to now it has alienated me from my friends where they don't even know how to handle me anymore. They barely even talk to me anymore because they don't know what to fucking do with me. Because it's gone to such a weird esoteric depth. But I'm only doing that because I'm being guided to say, find who you are. Don't be what everyone else is. Be you. And the fact that I'm doing that, I have been completely alienated. Right? For good or for bad, I don't know. I don't really care anymore, I guess. But my point is, if I would have just like, no, fuck all the, it's all devil worship, it's all evil, you know, I forgot the terms they use, but, and just say, no, there's only Jesus, you know. I would not be here doing this if that was the case. I would not be looking at my world the way I do. I would be, no, putting blinders up and putting up the liturgical fucking, what do they call that? Their catechism, I don't know. But like their mind experience of, you take the scripture and wrap it into a concept to live inside. So that way everything that comes into it is filtered through it, and by the time it hits you, you're identifying it as scripture instead of the real truth. It's just like this whole weird, crazy thing. But I'd be living that life, and I would be stifling myself. Because I think to come here is to learn. And if it's a bad thing to try to figure out who I am, well then alright, I guess I'll go to hell for that, you know, whatever. I don't care anymore. My point, as the title of the video says, I'm being honest about some of the things that have made me who I am. And it was scary. There were times where it was absolutely terrifying. It was, like I was explaining earlier, as a child, it was fucking terrifying. You know what I mean? Every night, just terror. But when I learned to stop being afraid of all that stuff, and not to embrace it by allowing it in me and being evil too, learning that some of it wasn't as evil as I thought it was. And sometimes these things were scared of me more than I was of it. And when I learned to embrace that and realize these are potentialities of my own living consciousness being acted out for me to examine, for me to learn from, I can learn the depths of myself now and who I really am. There are days where I'm still troubled. I mean, like I said, I have nightmares a lot. But like I was telling you, I choose not to see them as nightmares. Not even like I sat down and was like, these are not nightmares. And I was trying to psych myself into it. It was a natural occurrence to say, I didn't think they were nightmares. Sometimes shit's fucked up. Sometimes you get sick. Doesn't mean it's bad. You just get fucking sick. It's not a big deal. You'll get over it. And you'll feel better afterward. You'll appreciate being healthy again. I just see it as a yin-yang thing. Like, that's just how life is. You just embrace it. Some days you get sick. Some days you get fucking hurt. Some days aren't great. Some days your car breaks down. Some days you get fired from your job. You know, like, yeah, it sucks, but fuck, man, like, that's it. You take that and then you go to the next. You embrace it, you know. Sometimes someone dies that you really fucking care about. I lost the love of my life. She's dead. But, like, that kind of sucks, right? Like, oh, man, that's a pity. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's it. That's how it is, man. Like, what the fuck did I expect? Everyone to be immortal and live forever? No, that's not how that works. It's, people die. So I think for me, that's why I've ever to find a way to, I don't want to say feng shui, because I don't want to rhyme. I found a way to kind of navigate this and embrace it, if you will. I'm smart about it. I don't just go talking to some evil shit, you know, or invite it or do dark things. I don't do that. But sometimes you have to explore the darker side of yourself to understand it and get it out. You know, why do I do this fucked up thing? Whatever it is for you. You gotta fucking explore it if you want to get rid of it. You know, like I was telling you about that being in the woods that I felt was following me. I just kind of got it out. No, I don't want that. I don't want to be a part of whatever that is. Away. And it's gone. And I don't feel that anymore. Doesn't mean it won't try to return. Because that's how life is, man. Anyway, just something interesting I thought I'd talk about. I did not know where this conversation was going to go. We riffed it and look where we got. With all that being said, I'm very excited to get that goddamn next episode of the Harius Codex. It's going to be a very heavy one. I'm going to kind of look at it again because there's aspects I want to change, but for the most part, it's going to be fucking heavy. It's going to be really dark. There is a bit of reluctance on my part to want to get it out there, but as I am assured, everything will work out, so put it out. So, okay, I will do what you say, lady, whoever you are. I think I jokingly was like, I think it's Artemis, you know, the goddess of the hunt. And then I start hearing Wotan, and I'm like, wait a minute. The wild hunt? The god of inspiration? What's going on here? Well, I've talked about before what I think gods are. Archetypal aspects that you can use as like vessels of understanding. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just kind of going to figure this out. I'll write what I can, and hopefully I will see people actually want to see it. I don't know. I think it's my best work of late. And it's only going to get better. But I will go on to the next thing. And I shall see you in the next one.